So actually, right across the street is the stores, water distribution valve. What's that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I think a lot of those utilities will be part of the discussion. That's not our focus here, but we're going to talk about it, but definitely worth bringing up here.
So we're here today very much from a starting point, a very preliminary point. We're here to talk about the community enhancement side. Talk with you guys, with all the residents here, before putting together any plans or schematics. We want to talk about what it is that you guys want, what it is you need, what are the issues with this site, what things need to take into consideration. I'm going to talk louder, let's talk over tables. What things need to be taken into consideration as a design starts to be put together. So that's what we're here to do. And then this evening we'll have the entire design team that can also comment on more of the specific engineering side. Some of them are here today as well, so they can answer specific questions. But again, there's not a plan that's already in place. So the specifics are not yet set.
Now, having said that, you have seen a concept plan that kind of was the start point that the city did to identify the project and you know, just to be clear about the project description, I washed out. Let's take a step back, so now we're all here. I'm Jamie Slobodin. I work with Michael Baker International. I'm actually out of Jacksonville, Florida. I come to Texas a lot to do work with our office here in San Antonio. Been active doing different projects, and then we've been doing a variety of presentations on this kind of stuff with the city. And then I'll let Kirsten introduce herself.
I'm Kirsten Confitello. I'm also with Michael Baker. I'm part of our urban design studio, which focuses on community design and working with communities to make sure that the solutions that our teams are doing are working to solve the problems that communities are having and taking into account the local context and local needs.
And then so that today's project is, you know, the city contracted with J.D. Abrams, who's the contractor, and then Michael Baker International's lead engineering firm, working with the contractor to both develop the design and get it built. And it's intended to get a project done quicker and a little bit more efficient. And so we've been kind of working on a proposal and scoping the work, and now we're pretty much just getting started, you know, now on the project. And while there has been a plan, our job today is to get input and then to develop a plan that actually gets built. So from my own personal experience of having projects go through my backyard, I have great empathy, and I know how it makes you feel and all that. I think it's important that your input is, and we're here to make sure your input is here. Everything you say, we'll try and record. Can't guarantee all the things you come up with and ideas we talk about over the next day or this evening is going to get implemented, but what I would encourage you to do is to think about, like, well, while it may not be part of this construction project, it may be a really good idea, and there's plenty of good ideas that can get funded through other means, through grants and other opportunities. So we don't want to limit our thinking, because this is all about ideas, but at the same time there is kind of a finite limit of resources. So we'll try and work through that. So so that being said, I guess what I'd like to do is have each of you introduce yourselves so I know who's who. I've talked to some of you already, but then we'll have a nice discussion here until about 5 o'clock, or as long as we need to. So, you sir.
Virgil Schroeder. I live in the northeast corner of J. Hooks.
Okay.
So we use that gate closest to the bridge for the
Yep.
creek there.
Got it. Nice boulders on the side there. Yep. Very good. Thanks, Virgil.
My name is John Muscatel.
Okay.
I live same as Virgil, northeast corner, right across the street, and we use the same gate also.
Okay. Very good.
My name is Juan Mendoza. I'm on the board of directors for Auburn Oaks HOA.
Okay.
I've
Great.
been there for almost 25 years.
Is that how, I mean, is that when that Maybrook got built? Okay,
94.
fantastic.
Laura McCartney, resident, Auburn Oaks.
Gary Greenberg, Auburn Oaks, and I'm on the board as well.
Okay, great.
Rick Gutierrez, on the Woodridge HOA. I've lived in that neighborhood for 25 years.
Oh, great.
Chris Larger, same neighborhood, Woodridge, and we're very thankful for our light there to your side.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we're lucky.
You are.
I'm John Blanton. I'm representing the Prue Road homeowners. It's on the west side of Leon Creek, but we're interested in this project.
Okay, very good. We're on video today?
I'm making a video. I'll put it on YouTube and I'll distribute the link to the
Okay.
people in my neighborhood.
Very good.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you. So, so today is, we're going to do a very minimal amount of presenting. We want to really hear from you, so we'll get to that as quick as possible. But, just in general, let's just get everyone on the same page on what the project limits are. Prue Road is very interesting. It's kind of bookended. It doesn't actually quite connect to like I-10. It's a little bit indirect. And then, well, it continues on a little bit. It kind of ties in with this state highway over here. But then it's primarily a 4-lane road with turn lanes and a 4-lane road with turn lanes except for the project limits. So what we're talking about, I think it's important for everyone to, see what it is, because, when I first started looking at this project, I was asking some of the same questions I've heard, come up in discussions, is that, why does this need to be 4 lanes? And I think the need becomes a little bit more obvious when you look at it in the context that it's basically a gap in the system right now. So that's part of it. So I think that's just a given in terms of what we're trying to do. So we're focusing on what's in this box and Babcock, yeah, it's Babcock, and then to right up to Research Park area.
Approximately research drive.
Yeah. So that's the limits. The project is 4 lanes. It's widened to 4 through lanes. And while there's been a concept out there with a continuous left turn lane, and the reason for that is that's one way to deal with providing everyone access that has driveways, and when it's too numerous, in some ways there's some efficiency gain with that. However, we're going to try and explore if there's different ways of doing that to save space, and I think that's an opportunity that's worth looking into. The other kind of givens on the project is, the city is interested in complete streets or building transportation and public road projects to accommodate all users. There's articles out there, there's a recent one we can share with you, but making it safe for walking, bicyclists, transit, and cars. And apparently scooters is kind of next on the list, but we're not going to go there today. The one way to think about like all users, an 8-year-old and an 80-year-old should feel pretty confident to be able to move around on foot. And that becomes kind of that should be really the design criteria, not the track star athlete that can zip across and dodge cars and all that kind of stuff. So we want to make it, truly for all users, and I think that's some of the things we want to look for.
So that's a pretty good summary, I think, of what our project parameters are. The goal here is to make the road, expand the road to 4 lanes. And beyond that, the details of how the turn lanes are handled, how access is handled, sidewalks, bike lanes, these are all things that we're looking at and we're interested in including, and the city is interested in including, but they're not set. So we're here talking to you guys to see what it is that you want, what are the right configurations, where are the right places, where are the right connections, crosswalks. These are things that are all included in scope, but they are not yet designed. So
You keep referring to a 4-lane road, but from the plan, it looks like there's 5 lanes.
the 5th lane is a turn lane, which is Jamie
It's
was
a
saying
dedicated
is-
turn lane throughout.
Right. So the way you look at 4 and 5, when I say 4, and I think it's important to think in these terms, 4 lanes is 4 dedicated through lanes. The 5th lane is your left turn lane. So I wanted to change your thinking a little bit today. Is that, well, I I think a right turn would be in addition on the outside of that, and I think, but that's a good point. I think in the
You have
case,
driveways of individual residents on the
right.
south side of it, so the turn lane works for them as well.
So the right turn lane will, that hadn't been on the thinking, but we can add that. But if we stick with the left turn treatment, the first cut at it was just to get kind of, I think, a basic footprint, start figuring out what this project might look like. And then that continuous left turn lane created that fifth lane throughout. My point is that there's not a lot, there are some places where there isn't a strong, or even any, you know, on one side of the street, because of the wall, the way the subdivision is, there's no driveways. So there isn't a need to have a left turn lane, you know, through some stretches.
Would that save any trees?
Possibly. We don't know, but, I mean, that, honestly, I mean, when we do the virtual tour, we admired all the trees and everything, and I think every opportunity to save these are precious. Because a lot of, and when we get into the virtual tour, I think that will kind of make some sense. Last thing I want to say, and then we'll move on, and we'll go to the visual tour and talk it through so we can have this dialogue. Drainage and utilities are a huge part of this project. The engineering team that's coming this afternoon, they can focus on those details, and those are the ones you want to talk to about that. While I'm an engineer and professional engineer for this project, I haven't paid any attention to that. So, other than I know that there are drainage issues. So, but don't hesitate to tell us, because we'll document it. Kirsten's going to be drawing on the fly about different things, and we'll keep track of it. But again, don't hesitate to keep bringing that up.
So we're going to go ahead with a short little tour and just talk through some of our thoughts, what we've seen. You guys obviously already know this corridor. So we're going to do this quickly, and then we're going to have a conversation session with you guys, asking about what you like about the area and talking through some of your issues and concerns. And then we're going to move on to this community design session. We'll be going through some concepts and sketches with you. So we'll be taking down your feedback throughout. But just to start off, a little bit of a virtual tour of what we've discovered here and what you guys all know well. This is the condition of the road right now. And we walked this corridor this morning. Obviously, there are a lot of gorgeous trees out there. And some existing sidewalks that have already gone through efforts to go around those trees. So there are points along this corridor that have really nice walkways already. And as a part of the initial stages of this project, we've gone out and done a survey of where all those trees are so that that can be taken into consideration. And as it progresses, we know exactly where they are to see what can be kept.
So we pause for just a second. So this is the intersection we can't get out of, right? Yeah.
Which will be all of our intersections when this becomes a highway.
What's your name, sir?
Jim Keelan.
Jim, nice to meet you. I'm Jamie with Michael Baker. This is Kirsten.
Kirsten, Michael Baker. We're going to talk today about how to design this so that nobody is stuck in
That'd be good.
at their intersections.
You should have a gate on each end, and if you don't live between the two gates, you don't get through.
Can you charge a toll?
Huh?
Charge a toll or just keep going?
I'm good with that. I bet we can make a fortune doing that.
Well, may I ask one?
Oh, ma'am.
Sorry.
You snuck in. What's your name? I'm sorry.
Dorothy Clark.
Sorry.
Dorothy Clark.
Dorothy, nice to meet you. Thank you.
I live in Woodridge. My question is, when did our neighborhood thoroughfare become a 5-lane expressway? So what did it meet the requirements and when? I guess from the city.
It's from the city, so we're honestly, and we're picking up the project with that decision in place.
Okay.
So, valid question. I think it's worth asking again when the city staff is here this evening, and I think you deserve an answer on that. You know, we started this off just before you got here that I think part of the obvious reason for at least 2 through lanes or in each direction, or 4 basic through lanes, is that on either end of this segment of the project, it already is. It already has that kind of configuration. And then you have kind of the choke point. So,
4 to 2 and then back to 4.
Right.
so that becomes, from just kind of a system design standpoint, you have a gap in the system that needs to be completed. I think, the inability to get out of your driveways with long backups because there's only one lane going through signals, those kind of things contribute to it. So that's kind of the basis for that.
Okay.
So what we're trying to do though is, our team, Kirsten and I, are trying to kind of work through this exercise today and get the dialogue started to see what things we can do to make it a little bit more palatable and exciting project for you guys that works for all the users. So, but that's a very valid question, and I would encourage you to ask it again, because I think if you're not, you need to be satisfied with that as well.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, no, that's great. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. So we have this 2-lane road already, and the concept of expanding it to 4 lanes. Now you can see the land that's on either side. There's already some easement, and the city's idea is also to add bike lanes and sidewalks. So that would be added to either side of the street, potentially one side, potentially both sides. These are things that are all being discussed. Exactly where lanes end up, and where sidewalks are, and where bike paths are. But what you would see here is that the expansion of the road and then sidewalks and bikeways would end up having walking paths along the side, outside that fence, outside the gate. And in this stretch of the road, there's not an existing sidewalk, but on other stretches of the road, there are existing sidewalks, and the current, which is, again, it's very preliminary, just seeing what fits, scheme would put a sidewalk right in that same location. So the goal here is to figure out where things want to go, where connections want to go, and try to get you all towards connections, road connections, street connections, sidewalk connections that serve you all and are in the right place.
Has it been decided, like when you drive down there, right over there by that subdivision with the red bricks?
Yep.
That looks like where the road ought to go, because it's empty. It flip-flops as you go down the street. So wherever we perceive it to be wide, that's probably where they'll be taking it.
Possible. I wouldn't, that's just part of the engineering work to figure out what makes sense for
But
our.
we're not going to hear about that today.
It's not designed yet.
Oh, okay. We just know that there's going to be roads.
There's going to be a road, and the project is for a 4-lane road with whatever is needed to make sure that turning
Well,
is.
so often when they have these, this is like fluff, because it's already decided, and they know. A buddy of mine's on the airport thing, and they go through this gobbledygook about how they're gonna improve the airport. They already made the plan. It was done.
Some of you may have seen a plan, because in the initial, just to win the project in the first place, a plan was made to show what fits, but that's not the final plan. It was a starting point to examine what fits. It's not final.
They've been surveying for a long time now.
And part of
And
that
all
was
the
our
markers and
company's.
flags and all the trees are marked, so it looks like they already have something planned.
So.
The survey of the trees was our company going out, trying to find out where the trees are, so that when planning proceeds to a more final plan, we can take all of that into account. That was research to get started.
So Michael Baker, in pursuing this project, we actually knew that this was a big issue, and we actually on our own surveyed the trees. So we'd have that information. And it's our intent, and because I value it too, to see what we can and cannot keep. We can't guarantee anything, but at least if we know where they are and they're actually surveyed and located precisely, then we can see the opportunities. You already have, and as Kirsten goes further down, you already have some sidewalks that kind of wind around the trees. When you get further
That's down where we're at.
Yeah.
That's by Jane Oaks.
Fantastic. And so those are the ideas that came to us about how you would actually try and capitalize and do different things to try and preserve that. So you already have examples of that. And, it gets hot here, right? When you're out walking, it's nice to have some shade. So we value that. Right?
And I thought the city ordinance, on the tree ordinance specifically addresses the vintage oaks and those oaks 75 years and older. Heritage oaks. And these, in fact, would be, and I mean, my subdivision has been in existence for 20 plus years, so we know that this was all ranching land. So certainly it's,
So do those all qualify? We knew
That's-
that
that's
was a
what we-
possible issue, we weren't sure if they are qualified as
Yes.
heritage oaks.
The city of San Antonio has a regulation that any commercial project has to have a tree survey on. And those trees that are called heritage trees, which are 22 inches in diameter or greater, they have to do mitigation to replace the caliber inches of those trees. I think it's confusing, and I know I hear a lot of people saying, this isn't a done deal, and it is a done deal. You have a certain amount of space that's public land. You have right of way on both sides.
Right.
What's being discussed, as I understand it, is we're going to have 4 lanes, a turning lane, bike lanes, and sidewalks. That's 79 feet of area,
It's pretty wide.
according to the specification the city is given. So there's a certain limitation. Right now, I'm with Auburn Oaks with the pretty
Yep.
brick wall. The plan is to go as close as 3 feet to that wall. And the balance of that 79 feet goes well into the right-of-way on this side. So where are you going to get the land to make any modifications of swinging it around and saving trees?
So in that particular stretch, and totally share that, even I think we'll pull up some drawings, is that, again, the initial plans that you saw, and I call them initial plans just to get things started, were basically taking 2 tangent lines with that cross-section straight across. That's the easiest way to kind of start, get it at least. And the reason why that was a good place to start for the city is because that helps you understand what the full extent of what an impact might look like, and what, drainage issues, and it will help kind of the thinking. In that particular stretch where you have that wall and there's no turning, for that long stretch, is it really important to have that 5th lane or that left turning lane there? And can you narrow it back down there so you can preserve what's up against that wall and those trees? Those are the things that we'd like to try and see if we can do that, right? And then hear from you and say that's important.
That's
right?
important.
that's
Right.
important. Yes.
So we were going to do this short site tour and then jump into conversation and taking down your commentary, but I think we're already in that conversation, so should we jump ahead to that?
Can we go back? I mean, can we
Absolutely.
allow you to go ahead and do your virtual tour first?
If
Yes.
you'd like, would we like to?
Yeah,
continue?
I think just for everybody to have clarification
Okay.
as to what you're looking at.
Mhm.
So little things of what we would also like to do, this is a great audience, by the way. You guys are awesome. Keep it coming. What we'd like to do is that actually when we're done with this exercise here, we'd like to actually walk out with you guys if you're all interested. And let's just stand out there and, we don't have to go far. And I think, after we've developed some ideas here, it's very interesting when we look at maps. They give you one perception, and when you stand out there, it never quite matches. And I've been doing this for 25 years, and it still amazes me when I look at a map and I think I have it all figured out, and then I go outside. So we'd like to do that if you guys are all interested in that. And again, that's one thing I want to kind of preempt or talk about here as well.
We also want to we're here focusing on community enhancement
Yes.
today. We also want to be somewhat visionary. This project is talking about expanding the road, but the goal is better access for everybody. And so we want to think about what can be embedded in this project or additional things that this project can allow to continue in the future, that will serve the community. So sidewalks and bike paths are something that the scope of this project already allows, that we can provide that. But additional things could be possibly put in as well, or could be, the scope of this project could leave room to continue with community enhancements. If you know that you have problem intersections that need to be dealt with in another way, we want to take that into consideration. We want to think about where you're walking. Make sure that sidewalks are connecting in the right places, getting across the street. Do you need crosswalks? Do you need places to stop and sit? Are there destinations that the sidewalks need to go to? When you're walking along this stretch here, there are all these beautiful trees. There's a church, there are some daycares. We did see a few people out on the sidewalk this morning. And if anybody's going to be walking in this corridor or bicycling in this corridor, what would you want to see there? Where would you want to go? And are there other things that we can put into this project, into the streetscape, to make it more of an amenity to the community that will not simply be more traffic? So we want to be kind of visionary in thinking about all of that, thinking about not just how is this getting people through, but what is it doing and how is it helping the community?
And then kind of another concept on top of that is kind of, terms placemaking. I think you folks are living in a gem here. You're really close to a lot of different things, but it really has kind of a really nice kind of rural pastoral feel to it. And so, what can you do? And there's a lot of interesting ideas that are coming out and examples around the country where, you have the big public infrastructure, but there's a lot of little things you can actually do to make it actually kind of a place that feels more homey, and so you're gonna feel a little bit gutted, I think, when you go from a 2-lane to a 4-lane or plus road. But what we can do to kind of offset that to make kind of a nice place and keep it a very attractive, area for you folks to live and, have new residents come in and that kind of thing. So that's another part of it.
We're definitely thinking, some of you have mentioned the turn lane that you've seen as a concept. We're definitely thinking about how much of that space can be used for other things and where are the turn lanes needed, and where is there possibly space to do something else that's more of an asset to the community.
So like this stretch here, this is I forget, this is the J-O, is it? No,
That's Woodridge.
Woodridge, sorry. But this is a long stretch where there's, between intersections on the north side, there are no driveways there. So, can we do something different with that left turn lane because it's serving no purpose for the majority of that stretch of road? Again, that's what we want to try and look at to see if we can do something.
We also were noticing the entrances of a number of your developments. You have the gateway, and you have landscaping and sidewalks right out towards the edge, and then they stop. But we see that as an opportunity to perhaps do something more that creates a space that's more usable, that connects to a continuous series of sidewalks. And these are just our ideas, because we've been doing this for a long time, and we see spaces and we think of ideas, but what we're here to figure out is not what have we seen elsewhere, it's what do you guys actually want?
So are you all going to talk at all about the time frame and closures or stuff like that? 'Cause they already expanded. They closed Prue by Jade Oaks when they built the bridge by the low water crossing, and it stunk.
Yeah. So those questions, that's tonight's public meeting.
Okay.
Absolutely, and that's our lead contractor, J.D. Abrams, and the construction scheduling. That's all part of the evening's
That's
discussion.
6 o'clock meeting?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
And what's your name?
Steve.
Steve?
Bishop. I'm in Jade Oaks.
Okay, very good.
So I've dealt with Prue Road when they did the low water crossing thing. It was terrible.
But it was horrible every time it flooded.
Yes, sir. I don't disagree with you at all. So it was a short term suck, and it's better now. You're absolutely right.
Now, there's an example of this intersection anytime you're there during like rush hour times, when you're parked, the people that are trying to get in there can't. That's where there ought to be a right-hand turn lane to get those people out of the main lane and to where they really want to go.
So,
It's going into Woodridge or
And
out?
going into it.
Into Woodridge. Is there a gate there?
No,
Moses?
No.
Okay.
But see, if you stop up there at the light, if there's two cars at the light, the people that are trying to turn, they're out
They
of
can't
luck.
turn, yeah.
They get to sit there till the light changes.
Well, what complicates it too is sometimes in the late afternoon, the Babcock light can have people backed up where you can't even through this intersection.
so,
You'll see it this afternoon.
yeah,
Yeah,
so,
we'll go out there
Oh,
for a
yeah,
while, and then
here,
even,
at 4:30, you'll start.
so that's the catch-22. So I think that the capacity, the new lanes that are being added will help those issues.
But
But the problem is with the new lanes added, it's taking away from something else. So I mean, there's life of the road, right?
I'm concerned that because there's a lot of people probably avoid this because of the traffic. If the traffic starts flowing better, it's just gonna multiply
Build
the
them, then they
people
will
that
come.
use this stretch.
So, I mean, that's a valid comment, and that was one of the things I looked at one point when we were studying the corridor to propose on this job. Again, it wasn't our job to kind of make that decision. But I think what's important, when you look at Prue Road, and because of the kind of obscure kind of connections between, you know, it doesn't really, it's not the most direct cut-through route to get from freeway to freeway. So really, we used a tool and we looked at who's using it. It's pretty much anyone that's on Prue Road has business or lives on Prue Road.
No.
I disagree with
No.
that.
That's way wrong. Because that's the freeway from Bandera.
Yeah.
Anybody that lives on Bandera Road,
It's a straight line.
Yeah.
and what it does is,
Yeah.
you're almost at 1604 at one end, and you're at Eden at the other. So this is like a diagonal highway.
It looks like that, but anyway, I can see where you could think that, but when we looked at some of the data, and actually, it was actually cell phone data that, of people driving the road, it surprised me how few people actually go from end to end. So while I'm not saying that people don't do it, but the number of people that actually do that from end to end is probably a lot smaller than you think.
What's your
Well, but
definition of
that's it.
end-to-end?
So that was back at the first map that we did,
Right, but from, to Babcock or to Bandera?
all the way out to Bandera. Yeah.
That's
You've gotta
two
continue.
time frames, in the morning
Yeah.
and in the evening.
Right,
During the day, you don't
Right.
have that.
right.
And you have a lot of traffic on Babcock that turns on Prue Road
Right.
that aren't people that live on Prue Road.
Yeah.
It's a shortcut to get in.
Now, where's that?
Picture. Unfortunately, it's got washed out.
I'm gonna go to the
Aerial.
diagram version, because I'd like to start, noting down people's thoughts as we go.
No, while she's doing that, one dumb question. Are they gonna, when they build our bridge, for instance, the one that you're gonna pave over to make it full length, that road went way down and then way up. Are they going to, like when you come up to Jade Oaks, are they gonna pull that road down where there's that big rise? Because there's a standpipe over there that when they were building that other thing, we were told that that's why the standpipes are in the middle of the new pond. So when they get behind Jade Oaks, can you take a standpipe and just cut it off?
Standpipe, what do you mean?
A standpipe for the sewer.
Mhm.
Yeah. So you're talking, so it's like right over here?
No, the pipe is gonna move your hand back.
Back towards,
The
so
pipe,
that's,
the pipe is right behind Jade Oaks, somewhere along in here.
Okay,
okay.
It's where that road has a rise and there's a,
right.
what do they call them? The little railing so that you don't crash
Yes.
into it.
That's right,
Guardrail.
it's the
Yeah.
drainage corridor that we saw, yeah.
So that's all part of the engineering that's gonna, take place, because right now, these are actually, it's not really a bridge, it's actually a culvert. It's a series of culverts that kind of forms a bridge, if you will. And so I think, Tom, if he's still here, so that's part of the drainage discussion, is to figure out that you have the right hydrology
Right.
and design that correctly. And then what that looks like in terms of elevation.
Because when they built it, there's one standing up there 10
Yeah.
feet tall.
Yep. And so, yep, so I think a lot of that will get resolved.
Are there rules on how close they can get to the back fence of somebody's property with a road?
That's more of a question for the city.
In terms of a setback.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if you look at Callahan, where they turned that into a little freeway from the 410, behind people's houses, the pre-existing fences are history, and there's a big fence creep thing that's like 10 foot tall.
That's what I was showing you earlier.
Yeah, we saw a picture of that earlier. So what are your thoughts on that?
I live on the fence. I'd be thrilled to death with the wooden fence disappearing and a big one.
And a bigger fence?
It would help with your noise.
Yes?
I've been in touch with the engineer on this project,
Uh-huh.
and he told me that impermeable acoustical barrier fences will not be a part of this project, because this is a city-funded project, and only state and federal-funded projects qualify for noise abatement.
Okay.
And
Which means we
I
get to
live on
keep
the
our
fence
little
line
fence.
too.
We live on the fence.
And it's
What I don't
outrageous. The way
understand, though,
We live on
the
the
traffic
fence.
noise now is just almost untenable.
But Callahan was not a...
I don't live on Callahan, I live on Prue.
No, but I'm saying that Callahan Road was just finished, and that's the wall that he's talking about, and that was not a state project.
So the engineer then told me something that wasn't correct?
Very possible. I've got the picture right here of what he's talking
I
about.
know what he's talking
Yeah.
about. I referred to that in my conversation.
Yeah.
I don't know what was happening with that project that it managed to get. Maybe it had a different budget or a different qualifying factor. What we are thinking about is sidewalks and bike lanes that could be up against that fence and take up some of that space, and possibly landscaping. There are ways.
Before you talk about bike lanes, what will the speed limit be on that road?
I'm not sure if
On
that's
the
set.
readjusted Prue out here?
I'm not sure if that's set yet. Is that set?
We were told that it would be 40 by somebody from TCI.
Okay, that means people are gonna be doing 50.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because they said that if there was a median separating the direction that traffic would flow in, that would be a 45-mile-an-hour lane. But if there is no median in between, it would be a 40-mile-per-hour.
Where are they gonna get room for a median?
He didn't
No,
say
they're
they were
not,
gonna do
they're
it.
not putting in a median, they're putting in a
No, he was just
dedicated
saying
center lane.
making the
Okay, so
reason
That-
we just
okay,
shoot a
the
forward.
dedicated center lane is something that has been discussed. A median is something that has been discussed. A turn lane that alternates with median has been discussed. That's not fixed
I
yet.
think that we need to kind of come to some understanding here. I was told that the design is complete and that no input today will affect the design. It's a done deal.
That's what I said an hour ago.
So,
That's what I was.
so what is set is that the project will include widening to 4 through lanes, 2 lanes in each direction, and a left-hand lane treatment, and bike lane or bike and pedestrian treatments. So that part of the project is set. In terms of how that gets designed, that is not set. And that's kind of what we want to talk through today is, and it's a tight fit. I'm not going to kid you on that, and we know that. But we have looked, as we've been here the last 2 days, where there may be some opportunities to do some things differently, and possibly alternate the treatment of the bike lanes, and there's a lot of different choices on that. So to talk about that as an example,
I think bike lanes should be a non-starter here. It's too
Yeah,
damn
let's not
dangerous out
waste
here
the
as it
real
is.
estate on a bike. Let them
okay,
run on the
well,
sidewalk.
let's talk about it. Okay, so what you've seen so far, and let's just talk about that for a second. And that's a fair point for you to make. I'm not discounting it.
I can't ride my bike out here anymore. It's too dangerous.
Okay. So if we took it like the first option, and this is probably the plan that you folks all saw, that you have kind of a curb I'll just draw it straight across, just so you see it complete. Is that, this is some type of a bike lane, we'll call it a bike. And then you have a travel lane, some type of a left turn lane, travel lane, and then some type of bike lane and a sidewalk, right? So that's one way of doing it, right?
You want to be able to see this.
Sidewalk.
Right, very good.
So to take it, let's just kind of start playing with that. So the basic tenets of the project are to have this, which is the main part of the project, that's a given. The other part is left turn lanes, and I'd say that left turn lane treatments, there may be some options there. Let's just leave it at that, okay?
That's good.
Then, the city would like to accommodate all users, so that's where the bike lane or bike treatment and sidewalk and bike and sidewalk. So as a premise, you'd like to accommodate both sides of the road. Now, because of the nature of this corridor with the north side versus the south side, not to say the Civil War or anything, but it's just two different types of characters. So one of the ideas that you could possibly look at is, let's say we go with the idea that the bike lanes just don't belong on the road. But we want to accommodate bikes, so then let's say we do the idea that we put a multi-use path that's 8 feet off to the side, and then, or some distance, but let's just say a multi-use path where it's bike and pedestrian, it's not in the roadway at all.
I like that idea.
So that's one way.
I don't want to have to be watching out for
You
bikes.
see, absolutely. So, sir, so what I'm trying to get at is that the
I understand what
details.
you're saying, but I'm looking at both your drawing and then the schematic on the screen. If you were to measure linear feet from
Right.
tree to tree,
Right.
you're talking a good, what?
Yep.
200 feet, 250 feet?
Well, tree to tree.
Tree to tree.
Tree to tree, this is just drawn from a segment of the aerial, and those trees are in properties.
I understand.
So,
But down when you get close to the pet cemetery,
Mhm.
where I live,
Yep.
you don't have the luxury of that kind of space without coming right through my living room.
Well,
No,
if they take,
there's
if they take the
absolutely-
property, if they do the land grab on the other side of Prue Road,
I'm all for
on the
this.
south side, they'll have a lot of room.
Is that?
I don't know.
Is that a done deal?
I don't know.
There's a sidewalk today across from the pet cemetery.
Yeah.
It's right up,
Right
right up
behind
next
our
to
house.
that.
It's right behind our
Right
house.
behind her.
Yeah,
Right on my
okay.
fence line.
Yeah, and that,
So,
I walk it every day, so I hate to take away from pedestrian traffic.
yeah, some of those sidewalks that exist are in the exact same location that they could be, that they could stay.
And in all honesty, I do see, as I drive down Prue, I see more pedestrian traffic that walk the sidewalk outside of Jade Oaks. In that stretch, I truly do see that. But from Woodridge all the way down to Auburn Oaks, I see maybe 2 or 3 people walking, and it's only first thing in the morning, and then, you know.
Have you ever walked it?
That's
It's too
because they
dangerous.
don't have the
Yeah,
sidewalk.
exactly.
Rutted, it's
That's
too dangerous.
so then the other ideas. South side of the road, because of the, fewer lots, maybe you only have a sidewalk, again, no bike lanes in the road, and then no bike lanes, and then a multi-use path on one way. So we're still, again, we need to work it through, but again, the idea is how can we, still accommodate all the elements that are looked for, which is, accommodating pedestrians and users, bicycle traffic, two-way bicycle track on this side along with shared sidewalk. Again, you can then consolidate that into a path that starts to take away from some of those dimensions.
Before anybody makes a decision concerning bicycle paths, I'd like for those relevant designers to get on a bicycle and ride down that road.
I wouldn't do it.
Well, no one would bike it now, and we're going to take down all this feedback. I'm not sure.
And if you want to get an idea what it will be like, ride a bike on a sidewalk down Huebner Road, where people are easily doing 50 to 55 miles an hour. And you're right in the traffic on those sidewalks, because the sidewalks are built right up against the road.
So there's a difference between a sidewalk and a multi-use path. And your point is totally valid, right? So a sidewalk, which isn't necessarily all that enticing, but is a, you know, a 4-foot path. It's usually a concrete thing with kind of regular spacing. That's actually not a great biking experience, right? Boom, 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 boom. A multi-use path would actually be a little bit further back from the curb, away from the traffic. Possibly, you know, if you find the opportunities to save some trees and kind of wind it around, you know, that type of thing. And then that's actually more of a smooth trail that's continuous flow for a bike. So, to your point, you know, biking up against high-speed traffic that's really constrained doesn't feel very good. But again, so what we're trying to say is that, you know, you guys, your first impression of the project was probably as big as it'll ever get. And then there are other ways of actually starting to explore it, accommodating the same things that's a given to the project. Number of lanes, bike and pedestrian treatments. We're just here to try and kind of, you know, talk about, you know, different things and then get some feedback about, does it make sense to do something like this? You know, taking the bike lanes out of a street, skinning that up, that accommodates some space. Those are some choices that we can start to look at.
Well, you know,
Yes, sir.
Gary might differ, but at least for the people that I speak to, and spend a lot of time outdoors, so everybody that walks by stops or drives by stops and talking to me about this. I would say the majority of the people in our subdivision would favor more of the sidewalk multi-path situation. And especially where it involves saving trees, because there's a big tree down on the corner of Network and Prue, and there's some people in our subdivision, I'm pretty sure when it comes time, they're going to chain themselves to that tree.
Network and Prue.
I'm going to chain myself to several.
Yeah, since you mentioned Network and Prue, there's that intersection right there. The city did a horrible job of tying it in to Southwell. Southwell is right across from Network. And so if you're traveling towards IH-10, sometimes there's a left-hand turn lane that's trying to get into Network, and traffic will go around the vehicle that's attempting to make the left-hand turn. And if you don't know that that street is cut at that particular angle, you're gonna tear the bottom of your car out. Because the city just, I don't know what they were thinking.
They put in 2 lights, like it's, you know.
Yeah, and so,
It's very
Which
short
location
term,
is
yeah.
this?
short-term thinking.
Network.
and
Southwell.
Right.
just seeing that the city has done that with the engineers that they bring in, that makes me to want to question what actually is going to take place here, you know? And I know that you have the best intentions, that you're wanting us to give you feedback and everything, but I think the majority of us are here that would like to speak to the people from TCI in the city that actually are going to make the decisions. But I appreciate you being here and listening to us.
One
Ben?
suggestion I would like to make, and I hate to interrupt you.
No, that's fine.
But I would like to see all of the electrical infrastructure placed underground so that we eliminate the telephone poles, which are quite numerable out there. And I could just see one sitting in the middle of my brand-new walkway.
Yeah.
Is there money for that in the budget?
They're going to bury one.
That's what I thought.
We had heard they were going to put everything on that ground.
I tell you what really, maybe the rest of the people agree with me, this is frustrating because it's like y'all are in the early stages of planning And from what the feedback that I get, and I've had, I can't tell you the number of meetings I've had with the city, with the engineers locally that are doing this, and all the things that we're talking about today, they are saying, nope, this is what's going to be done. There's going to be a 6-foot sidewalk. There's going to be a 5-foot bike lane, 11-foot lanes, 13-foot center lane, and so on. And you've got a limited amount of space. And if you think we're saving those trees, that's a tree survey with red tape just to indicate I did that particular tree, and I've got it documented with what its caliber width and such are. So it's like we're starting from scratch here to get our input of what we'd like to see done, but we're being told, or I'm being told by the people that are supposedly in charge of the project, that there's no way that we're gonna do that. We can't move around like you would like to see us and save those trees, because we don't have the land.
If I may,
Yeah, like you said, this project is, there are certain things that have already been determined. A 4-lane street expansion, that has been determined. That's going to take up a certain amount of space, and it's going in this location. But that doesn't mean that everything else around it, I mean, the project of this size has multiple stages, and I'm sure you've already been through meetings, and a certain, the decision to make it into a 4-lane road, I don't know if there were meetings about that. That was before we came on board. But yes, there are absolutely steps that have already been taken and a certain degree of design that is already done. But the final design is not done. And things like where the bike lanes go and how they're designed and what width they are and what materials they are and whether we want them and where you want them. We are also not only talking about street and sidewalks. We want to talk to you about community enhancements. We want to think bigger picture. What is it that you want this project to facilitate or to improve for the community?
I think, those are all well and good, but you had a bond issue that's been passed. There's X number of dollars associated with that, which I'm assuming was based upon a predetermined plan that was, they were given an estimate of what the cost was going to be.
Sure.
And I know in urban planning that it's great to have all these little areas, but they're very costly.
So not necessarily, but to your point, is that the budget on the community enhancements is limited, but it is something for us to work with. That's
I
all.
would like to recommend one community enhancement being some sort of acoustic deadening road surface, some type of pavement that will minimize tire noise on the road. Because it's already pretty untenable out there if you look along that fence line. It starts at 4:30, 5 o'clock, and it continues through 9 o'clock, and it starts again at 3, and doesn't end until 7:30. And there's got to be some type of pavement that can be put down that will minimize road noise.
Okay.
Is there?
Well, I think, I mean, something have they decided between concrete or asphalt yet?
I think, right now, I think it's showing as asphalt, but that hasn't been.
So if you go with concrete, that's going to be even louder than what you have now.
And you got the expansion joint, so you get to hear the nice thump.
Yeah, I mean, there's, I mean, that's part of the pavement design, but.
My concern is that there has been absolutely no consideration given to the quality of life for the residents who live along that fence line. The traffic noise is going to be increased. Getting in and out of the subdivisions is going to become more challenging than it is now. I'm told that they're not going to be able to put lights in at the Jade Oak subdivision because there's no cross street. Well, try getting in and out of there now at 5 o'clock.
Amen.
And if you know, at Jade Oaks, for instance, if you're coming in where I live at gate 2, you have a turn lane. Now, for me, when I'm coming home from work, it's stopped, and I can see that if you just kind of ease that road up a little bit into the dirt, I could have got in.
Yeah.
But if you go down to gate 1, you're out of luck. They just stop the traffic as people are trying to.
And there's going to be no provision for egress or entrance in this new design from what I've been able to gather.
So which intersection, let's look at that. Let's talk about some of the best points and some of the problem issues. Which intersection were you mentioning?
Yes, I wanted to go back to the Network Street. So are you going to extend and beyond that going going east? Are you going to restructure? Or are you going to have 4 lanes? If you're not, then everything's going to be bottleneck coming and going.
She's talking about as you leave here now,
Yeah.
and you get up to Network, as you get past that brand-new buildings left and right,
One lane.
it funnels down into one lane that goes into a,
It's gonna be.
It's supposed to go,
But
it's supposed to go to
It's
4.
going to be continued all the way up until this point here.
To
Lori's.
Where it goes
All the way to
forward.
Reese.
It matches up with that point right
We'll be
here.
all at 4 lanes,
Yes.
two, 3
And
lanes
you're
each
aware
direction.
that school is going.
But y'all haven't even, none of us have ever experienced what is gonna happen with that new school. Because there's not gonna be buses that are delivering kids to that campus. There's gonna be individual parents that are
Is it a
dropping them
private
off,
school or
and they've gotta have
And
500
where's
kids
the charter?
to start off
The
with
charter
in September.
Because the charter school is being built.
That's gonna be crazy.
What's going to happen?
Where's the charter
changes?
school going?
Right in that corner.
Right where the line is.
Right here?
Right underneath.
No,
that dirt right there.
And the city.
Yeah, there you go. Now you follow the street and all the way back. There you go. That's your new 400 customers per day.
That's an elementary
That's a
school?
new,
Yes.
yeah.
It's
Well,
55 now, and you're going to see.
There's construction entrance line there.
It's being built on a foot, so.
His hope is that
So that's clearly something that needs to be taken into
There will be
consideration.
a light there?
That's going to be a network addition.
There will be a light there, is what I'm told, from
Oh.
the charger.
There will be a light at network.
No, right at that intersection.
At Morehead.
Yeah,
You turn on that to go to.
Yeah, that's
Prue
not-
Road
that's not part of
substation
what we're
in
doing.
there.
I know, I know.
Right, okay.
Forever.
If
Well,
you,
anyway,
if you continue west down Prue Road,
If we continue west?
go west back to your right, and go down to the Jade Oak subdivision.
Mhm.
There it is. There are 2 entrances in Jade Oaks.
Right.
Right.
There are no intersecting streets other than those exits and entrances.
Mhm.
And once that road is expanded to 4, and I hope only 4, with no bike lanes or any of that stuff, how in the hell are people going to get in and out of it?
Yeah, it's stepping up
So
already.
these are difficult intersections right here.
Yeah.
Is it
We wanna make sure
There's gonna
that
have to
we're
be
getting
turn
out
lanes
there.
to get in and turn lanes to get out.
There's already a turn lane to get in on that.
That's when they
Two.
want
See
the
to the-
center lane.
You see to the left, see to the left of Jade Oaks? That's already been rezoned, 500 units, multifamily.
Yeah, then Palettas, whatever his name is.
Right behind the Albertsons, it's the old Albertsons.
And this intersection here,
It's gonna be,
this is the light intersection?
Another apartment complex.
Is it?
Elizabeth.
Is that Woodbridge?
Right. Woodridge has a light, but that one,
Yeah, there's a light there.
But it is not gated.
that one is a difficult right turn particularly?
Yes,
yeah, they need a right turn, right where you're talking about.
yes.
Old Prue.
There's also a gated community on the
Down
east
the
side of
road.
the drainage,
Yeah, come down that hill a little bit.
which is Woodridge.
Going towards the east?
No, the other way.
Okay.
See where the lake is?
So right
Right
here,
there?
this entrance here,
Yeah.
that's a separate.
Yeah.
Well,
That's another subdivision.
They
There's
don't
actually a subdivision on the south side too.
Yeah, see where you don't show anything? Right across the street from the arrow you just made?
Right,
That's all houses too.
so this is all
Yeah.
houses.
And those poor people, if they try to get out that side to the right, you can't see over the hill.
Right, because this is
You're
where
flat out of
that,
luck.
this is where that slip lane is, and their house is here.
Yeah.
There's more homes behind the gates.
Okay,
You have X number of gated communities. Jade Oaks is gated, Auburn Oaks is gated. What happens when we take the land closer to those gates? And you have keypads that are
absolutely.
Yeah.
they're owned by the subdivision, and there's queuing laws and regulations in San Antonio as to how many people can queue in the line. What if those gates and things have to be moved? Is that a city?
We're gonna end up like Pembroke Estates, where if there's one punching the numbers, and another trying behind him, he's got the back end of his car sitting in the middle of the back.
Exactly.
No, I think all that has to be looked
Yeah,
at.
all of that needs to be resolved before this.
The hook is that if you took the width of all this stuff you're talking about, pretended it was a ribbon, and laid it down,
Absolutely.
can it keep its dimension everywhere?
No.
Not unless
Even if you
buy
wiggle
land.
it around, can you take that 200 feet or whatever it is, and can that go without having to,
If you took the same continuous thing in the plan that you guys saw before, no. You know, I think you're right.
it's like Prue Road at the other end, one person was telling me, one of your surveyors, he said, well, it goes to two lane down there. I said, yeah, you got the damn city water thing on the other side of Parkwood, that's in the middle where you would have a road. You
Right.
can't do it.
You go to.
And it goes down, and then it blows up again to 4 lanes again.
That's why they're talking about that fifth lane being not needed at all, you know, all along the whole.
Continuously?
Continuously.
Yeah.
To me, that's, I mean,
It just needs to be in front of the subdivision so that we can get out of the lane of traffic to turn in. And in and out from each subdivision should have at least a turn lane built. It's like it is now. If you come up the hill, it's all singled out by my house.
right.
And, you know, it says, this is the turn lane. You guys go to the right around it so that I can get in.
Kind of.
What about the properties to the south? Because there are a number of, not necessarily subdivisions, although there's the one.
Oh, yeah, just
near the
single family
basement,
dwellings
and
that
there
are across
dwellings
from,
and- Right,
They
it's
are
all
on
businesses.
acreage lots?
Yes.
Those properties?
yeah, that's all those people up there to the right where you have your red writing.
Right,
Down there below the street, all there's like half a dozen houses
right.
just
Down on
lined
the
up
south
all the
side,
way
there are a
along.
number of-
Right down the
So
street,
turn lane
right here
does
on
that.
your right-hand side.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, somebody brought up the fact that hump between Jade Oaks and the bridge, if you're coming out of that gate wanting to go toward Heatner, a lot of times you're looking to see if there's clear traffic from Babcock. As soon as you think it's clear, somebody pops up where the hill's so
Right.
fast.
It's because they're not doing 40, they're doing 55.
People are driving fast.
So that hump
So what-
almost needs to be.
That's what I was saying about the
You can see the people
standby.
down on that bridge
Right.
from that entrance.
Right.
Yeah. Now, go back to the Auburn Oaks entrance. I just worry about you guys.
Okay,
I'm
so-
okay, but
Where you
It's
had
this one,
gate,
right?
but
It's this one.
Right,
Yeah.
we would run like a no turn on red on research, even if it's
Well, that's one.
meter.
No turn here.
Yeah.
no turn on
that
red.
intersection needs to have turn lanes in all 4 directions.
Well, that's part of the design. I mean, that intersection getting reconstructed is part of this. I think a lot of the challenges you have now, a lot of those will go away. They'll be replaced with something different.
Don't want.
But some of the big things you're talking about now will go away when you add 2 through lanes in each direction. So like your worries about, you know, you talk about, you know, turning right in, right? So right now, you,
At 6, or you talk about timeline?
What happens is the people who are turning right on those lanes, they'll,
so that's what you have now. So as
even
soon
if
as
they
you,
do need to back up, they'll back up in one lane, but you still have another through lane. So you'll have through traffic continuing to drive. You have an entire lane for that, and then
that's one upside, is that then, you know, the advantage of having like 2 through lanes is that, and that's why I would kind of hesitate from as much as possible about the idea of having right turn lanes, because you have that problem now, because you only have one lane.
I got you.
So,
But like he says, what you run into, because I live at the gate,
yeah,
I mean, it's not uncommon to see a school bus, a FedEx truck,
right?
you know, and there's times that you'll have 2 or 3, and if you've got a lane there now, I mean, you can't even get a bus to get off the street before he's,
That's because, with one lane, right? So
Yeah.
basically, if you have 2 through lanes and a through right, then at least you have a way to get around, right? And then again, now we're going into a gate, right? And then that's another.
yeah, he's talking about having to recess the keypad farther back.
We'll have to look at that.
yeah, I would hope that that wouldn't be necessary. By having an entire additional lane, even when you have a lot of people that want to turn, they'll all go in that lane, and then you basically have a turn lane.
Yeah.
at peak times, and then you have, and your second
I
lane
got what you're
is
saying,
entire
all of us that are
freeway.
wanting to turn right are
Right.
gonna be in the right,
Right.
and the through traffic's gonna be in the left.
Right.
Do you guys know if this Prue Road's gonna be like a via service or bus?
You know, that's a good question. Right now, I don't know, but I think that's a good, that's a good opportunity to see if VIA will, start servicing this corridor or not. But that would be a good question for VIA.
Can you give some examples of where your countywide ideas to make it still feel rural?
Well, I would say, I call it home.
Okay.
Yes, we like
Attractive.
thank you.
Whatever.
So I'll turn it over to my lovely artist here.
So, these are all just thoughts. None of these are specific to a particular location. But we drew up some just different types of thoughts, things that can be done. One of the things that can be done is adding crosswalks at intersections to make those intersections feel safer and more walkable. They can be done in a different kind of material or a different color. And then that visual also slows down traffic. We can look at intersections, creating spaces for people to sit. We can look at having benches or bike racks. Again, we had been talking about bikes because we've been asked to look into bike lanes, but we're hearing that that may not be what you want. You're seeing that on the drawings because we were asked to look into bike lanes.
Could you share with us who's making these bike lane requests?
That was part of the project scope
That
from the
was the
city. It was
City
part-
council,
it was part of
mayors,
the
people
project
like
scope
that,
from the
probably.
city
Yeah, probably.
to look into configuration for a 4-lane street with bike lanes.
I'm anticipating the same
someone
thing
who
that's
lives
happening
downtown.
at De Zavala.
Made the suggestion.
If you drive down De Zavala at any time of day, you're gonna see all these scooters just lined up, stuck on there, and that's what's gonna happen if we have sidewalks put in here or bike lanes. You're just gonna see an increase of scooter traffic, and we don't have that right now. Partly because there is no way that you can get there.
Right.
But
Well, do you think people would want to be riding scooters or bicycles through here?
No.
Because if they did, where would they be going?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Well, that's the whole thing, if you're gonna be a bicyclist, unless you're one of these like cross-country kind of people, and this isn't the place to do that.
No.
You know, why would you wanna get on this 4-lane racetrack and
There's no malls,
there's no place, there's not a thing in the world you can go spend a penny at.
no churches.
are there a lot of kids in these neighborhoods?
Well, yeah, there should be commercial buildings that are gonna go around on either side of it.
It's mostly.
Yeah, but they've been trying to sell that lot
So-
across the street from our subdivision.
So I live in
Since I
Florida,
lived there.
and in this area, in a lot of ways feels the same way, where you have the gated communities that aren't connected, right? And one of the things that has been problematic, and I live in a gated community, so I'll confession, and I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old, so I'll get that out there. But if you have gated community 1, maybe 1 or 2 entrances, gated community 2, 1 or 2 entrances, and they're not connected, if you have a lot of kids, or even, it doesn't matter if it's kids or not, part of the challenges with that, there's a lot of great features about having a gated community in those kind of neighborhoods. If you want to go and visit your neighbors in the next community, everyone has to come out this road.
Yes.
So that inherently kind of reduces traffic. Florida, it's really tragic, and it's contributed to some major pedestrian fatality problems. Florida is far and away the worst state in the union, and one of the worst examples I've ever seen is they had 2 subdivisions, a home here and a home here. Their front door are like 120 feet apart, but based on how the roads are to get out and back and around, it's a 40-minute drive. I say that because, and I think, I just want to kind of change a little bit of thinking a little bit about, some of the amenities we're talking about, is that how nice would it be? And it's not really that long of a walk. And I think when we're done here, we should definitely just walk out a little bit. Is that it's really not that far to get between Jade Oaks and some of these other places. How nice would it be to be able to walk kind of between get out onto Prue Road and not feel like you're gonna get crushed by a 60-mile-an-hour car. What can we do to kind of accommodate that and make that feel better? Because when we walk out here right now, there is no sidewalk on either side. And so it's just a crumbled road.
Right?
And the other thing you don't have is the luxury of space to accommodate.
Absolutely.
I think we have to be realistic here.
Yep,
And
that's fine.
I can see this median road out there, but I'm literally going to have to give up my house to do it. You guys are gonna have to take it, because it just will not fit unless you take part of my backyard.
I have a question for you about, no, I totally hear you. I have a question about the pet cemetery, which in all my travels, I encountered a pet cemetery. Who's got pets buried there? Anyone here?
That's a legacy cemetery. It's been there for 60 years.
I saw some of them, they've been there a long time.
Yeah.
I saw a for sale sign. Is that like a private lot and someone's trying to sell it and then they'll do away with the pet cemetery?
Another thing that I think you
Okay.
planners need to be aware of is the projected growth in the corridor
Mhm.
of Prue and Babcock. Where the old trailer park was, that's going to be a subdivision. There's going to be another subdivision immediately adjacent to Jade Oaks.
Yep.
There's going to be a 450 multifamily apartment complex
Right.
immediately behind Jade Oaks. And all of this construction is going to be going on coincident with the expansion of the road.
Right.
And it's just going to be a nightmare for the residents.
Well, construction impacts without a doubt. There will be a construction phasing plan. I think from what we saw initially, there's actually some early enhancements where you might actually see some improvement over what you have now while construction's taking place. So anyway, that's part of this evening's discussion to talk about,
But what he's saying is, if you take, cancel the bike lanes, that gives you 10 feet to do other stuff. Maybe you can make the road fit better
Put up a wall.
if you take 10 feet out. 10 feet away from my fence farther than it could be, sign me up for that.
And the other thing, that multi-use
Multi-use path.
on the other side,
On the south side?
yes, would be excellent. But that's just me. And not then, but right up against everybody's fence.
I think there's some confusion in here about how large this is gonna be. If you take your bike lanes and the various lanes that you have all the way across, you're talking about 79 feet. It's not 200 feet. The drive-through lanes are 11 feet, that's 44 feet of those, 13 feet for the center lane, and then you have a 5-foot bike lane and a 6-foot side lane. That totals out to 79 feet. And I've been told by the city that there is right-of-way on both sides to accommodate that. So it's not something that would go into your property, into your backyard. There is right-of-way that's on both of those sides.
I've seen the schematics. It's literally 3 feet off the fence line.
Well, it's 3 feet off the Auburn Oaks fence line, but that's right-of-way property.
Yes, it does go very close to
Right.
they're looking at what to do with their property and it goes up to
Right.
very close to the fence.
Is there a minimum distance from the edge of the road to a fence or a wall? Because if there's only a 3 or 4 foot sidewalk, I don't want to be walking kids with cars racing by.
It's a 6 foot.
Two
Well,
feet away.
that's a good point, and that's one of the things we want to talk about. What's currently the current thought is a 6-foot sidewalk and possibly a 5-foot bike lane next to that. So that's an additional 11 feet away
And
from the fence
how wide
before
would
the
your
driving.
multi-use thing be?
The multi-use path, depending on whether we were to do it as one direction or 2 directions, could be between 10 and 13 feet.
Okay, so there's no giveaway there. It's the
No
same
same.
thing. A
Well,
5-foot bike lane, sidewalk is about the same thing.
They're similar. I mean, there's a little give.
Wait, I mean, you're talking about trying to maximize feet.
Mhm.
Do you put one 6-foot thing and say, everybody do everything on this? Cars go here, humans go here. Whether you want to use wheels, you want to
Right.
pedal,
Right.
walk.
that's the
run.
multi-use path, right?
Yeah.
Using a shared path would make the right-of-way, would make the section a little bit smaller, or could make it a bit smaller if we were to do, for example, a 2-directional shared path on one side, then you don't need it on the other side.
Right.
So you're putting the bike lane and sidewalk together, but you're also not doing a bike lane on the other side. So that does get slightly smaller. But this is
Because
where there are different options.
The
in
hook
how
is
they
where
can-
you're, don't have anybody living right now, like across the street from me, there's not a whole lot, it's pretty empty. Well, you know, there's never been a sidewalk, if there still isn't a sidewalk, if all you do is put up a curb, somebody wants to buy that land, guess what? They get to buy the sidewalk, and they'll put it on their land, which would be a whole lot better for us at this point in time to fit our 70 feet of stuff.
So you're saying you prefer to see sidewalks be accommodated on the
Like
south
on the
side?
Jade Oak side, on my side, there is a sidewalk, keep
Right.
it.
Right.
On the other side, we'll blow that whole sidewalk gig off because there's nobody lives there. And then, because it's like when my business or company bought the old Kmart, there was no sidewalk. Once they bought the Kmart and said, oh, this is a car dealership, the city said, oh, you gotta follow the rules. You need to build a $300,000 sidewalk. And they had to do it. So what you do is, on the other side of Prue, you just build your road, stop your, where you are, put your curb up. If the guy across from us, if the 10 acres gets sold someday, and they're gonna have to put a sidewalk in, but they'll do it on their dime, and they'll do it on their land.
They would, although it wouldn't necessarily be contiguous at that point, because there are certain lots that have the
Yeah.
land for it on the south side of Prue, and there are certain lots that are
They're
available
not
for sale, and
continuous
there are
now.
others that are not.
They're not continuous now, so what's the difference?
Yeah, right now, the only area there's a sidewalk, period, is Jade Oaks, end of story. Everybody else, you get to run on the dirt, so we've done that for, what, 1 million years since the world was created? And
So
a few more's not
Our
gonna kill them.
sidewalks?
Huh?
Can we keep our sidewalks?
I'm sure that
I don't
they'll have to build a new one.
Yeah, they would either be kept or they would be reconstructed as
Yeah.
newer sidewalks but they wouldn't be moved and not replaced. They'd either be kept or they would be updated.
Yeah, but you probably won't be able to do a sidewalk, because if I was the people that live in those single-family homes back up the road here, whichever direction it is, and you came in and built your road, and then all of a sudden tell me, I gotta buy a sidewalk, I might tell you, it ain't gonna happen. I've been here forever.
So I think the whole sidewalk bicycle premise, and whether personally how you view it, is that the city of San Antonio is actually, and we travel around the country a lot, the city of San Antonio is extremely out front on trying to make sure that the entire city accommodates all users. And they've kind of, while they don't have it everywhere, they've been aggressively trying to make sure that they do this as part of the projects, which is including sidewalks and bike accommodations in addition to roadway.
That's like socialism.
Oh,
I mean,
Well,
they
welcome
don't,
to San Antonio.
yeah.
It's a
They're
great
not
idea.
looking at the individual neighborhoods. This is not an average neighborhood with low traffic. I mean, I would be really concerned because there's gonna be a lot of accidents.
So,
We don't have them now because there's nowhere the bikes are, but there's nowhere to go. Where would you go? There's no parks, there's no businesses, there's no churches, there's nothing
This church.
for committee.
This church. Do you think it would make a difference if the bike lane were separated from the road, if it were on a share path? Which is one of the options that we talked about.
It's not gonna be utilized.
but if it's a shared path and you can walk on it, would that be
You know,
okay?
The sidewalk,
You guys obviously don't live here.
right.
You don't live in this neighborhood, you don't know what goes on here. So to come in with this design idea of having bike paths and I saw these little park benches and stuff, I mean, this is like, it's
So waste of money.
utopian.
Well,
It's
but
California.
now the benches, what if we do get a bus to start traveling?
Let Via put it in.
Via will put
You're
up their
gonna- I know they'll put in their stops and their benches, but what if? I mean,
So-
I understand that,
Yeah.
and I appreciate seeing,
We don't have the luxury of space.
We're trying to think visionary.
yeah.
I got the idea, I
Also
think
not
build
trying
the
to-
streets and worry about the sidewalks and see how much land they got left over and fill in the voids with sidewalks.
But they want to do it all at the same time.
Yeah.
My main concern is not so much the sidewalks as that fifth lane being the turn lane, the whole cotton picking distance, because it's gonna bring nothing but speeders.
Yeah,
The
like,
people are not gonna want to be in bumper-to-bumper traffic, and if I'm gonna turn in Woodridge and I'm at Babcock, and I decide I am tired of sitting here, I'm gray-headed, I wanna get home, I'm gonna get in that turn lane and haul ass.
Fly all the way down the street, yeah.
if
Use
I
that as a new expressway.
Passing the other subdivisions.
If I can
That's a
amplify
really
on her
good
point,
point.
today, I don't know where you guys are leaving, or going to after you leave here, go down here to Babcock Road, which does have that continuous middle lane. You're taking your life into your hands if you want to get in there.
Continuous turn lane?
It's a continuous turn lane, the whole run,
Yeah.
from Desavala all the way down to Huebner. And it's flat out dangerous, and it's a waste of space.
So that's a really good comment, because we want to focus on the issues that you guys care about. These are some sketches we assembled in advance, so we don't want to focus on bike lanes. Let's talk about, this is something else we thought about, medians, or ways to narrow that lane. If the turn lane is going to be an issue, let's hear from you guys on where the turn lane is needed and where it's not.
Well, it's needed wherever people live, which is every subdivision.
Which is the gates.
Now, you probably can't accommodate all those single-family dwellings with a turn lane. But if there is a turn lane in front of them, I mean, the advantage for them is they won't get run over trying to, because traffic will run around them.
One of the things that could happen if there are medians or road narrowings in certain places that then widen and allow a turn lane at key intersections and entrances to subdivisions, if they're not for every single driveway, for some of those individual driveways, I don't know if anyone here is from any of those properties.
Now, there is a large daycare
Yep,
Yes.
across the road from one of the Jade Oaks.
yes.
Yes.
Right.
It's
It's
between gate 1 and gate 2.
Does that used to be a church?
Yes.
right here, right? This is
Yeah, that-
daycare?
Yes.
There's a daycare for probably 25
And
years.
there's a fair amount of traffic in and out of there.
It's a big daycare.
And see, they need a turn lane too.
Well, they have, it looks like they have kind of a.
Well, there's that one by gate 2, but if you get up to gate 1, there isn't.
So
They
they
have
need-
like a one-way.
One of the things that I've noticed that the city's been doing is to allow people to exit their neighborhoods. They have these real weird configurations where, you know, they have this real narrow median that separates the road and just allows one car to go fit into a certain channel. And
They've got them on
it's
Desavala.
all, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I don't
Dangerous.
want to happen.
You don't want single car turn lanes?
Yeah.
I don't want to see that happen on Prue Road for them to have to get out because it limits the number of vehicles that can actually get out. And in the morning rush hour, you need to move a lot of traffic.
No, that's fair.
But they have the luxury of space on the other side of Babcock.
That is the.
Babcock and Prue, you have the luxury of space. But on that other side, on this side, I don't.
So the other thing that I worry about for Auburn Oaks, if you go back down to Auburn Oaks, if they're coming down Prue from Babcock and want to turn into their gate,
If they're coming this way?
yes,
They need to
they're-
go
and they're going
left.
to turn into the gate, they need some kind of turn lane, but then right beyond that is the light
Right.
for people that are gonna wanna make left turns there. And again, if they're coming out of their subdivision and need to come out and turn left, now we have the people that are turning left on the network. Are they going to, how are those poor people gonna get out and say they don't wanna turn left at Network, they wanna go on around to get to Huebner on Prue? So are they gonna get broadsided when they try to go around the left turn at Network?
So you're talking about these folks
Yes.
getting out and then coming
Yes.
around, and then you're worried about these folks turning left this way?
Well, now you have several cars in line to make that left turn, and I'm coming out of Auburn Oaks, but I don't want to make a left turn. So how am I going to
She's
cross
talking about having to
over
go
the
across an extra
traffic?
lane.
Right, so you're talking about coming out this way and wanting to go this way,
If you're going
from
back.
Auburn and wanting to go towards Research.
No, I'm going towards Heaton. Yeah, coming out that way.
She's worried about being able to get out, and then there's.
And
people
the only
turning
reason I
left.
bring this up, at our last meeting that we had up here, there were 3 people from Auburn Oaks, and that's what they were saying.
Well, you can see they're in a bottleneck. I mean, you can't be 100 feet from the corner
Yes.
and try to get out
Yes.
except turn right.
That's going to be a complicated intersection, because I
Yes.
think there, we would have the turn lane to get into.
You see where you have your little
Turn lane to get
arrow
in.
there? Where these people are coming down Network and they're gonna make a right on Prue.
Right.
And this lady's talking about wanting to go left. And there's somebody coming out that wants to turn left. There could be a hell of a wreck.
That's why we had said no right on red if you're
Uh-huh.
coming off a network to take
Yeah, that's
that
a
right
good
turn.
Let me ask this, so how many people had accidents that you know of coming out of here?
Well, that's a very interesting question. The light and Network and Prue Road was one that I fought for with Bonnie Connors when she was District 8. The day that I got that light was when we had somebody killed in that intersection. And within 10 days, the city had a light up there.
So they got killed before the light?
You do,
That's
you
right.
have to have.
I think the
a
same
certain
thing
number.
happened at the entrance to Woodridge too.
Yeah.
And Hollyhock and back up.
Totally.
Yes, probably.
They always put up lights after somebody gets killed.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
They never listen to us, do they?
No.
The people that are gonna really go crazy is like it was last time when they put the Prue Road Bridge in. Hollyhock turns into a slow racetrack at rush hour time.
Yeah.
You fit all those cars on those 2 or 3 streets,
Because of the diversion?
yeah, to try to do the detour.
Well, Oakland Estates becomes the cut-through.
Yeah.
Well, I think that because we're widening, the maintenance of traffic on this will be what you have now. You'll be able to build this in such a way that, the contractor will build it in such a way that.
So it doesn't ever shut it off?
That's right.
I gotcha.
I mean,
You'll build one
there's-
lane and one lane and
Yeah, there should be no reason,
to
unless,
shut.
unless it's like one overnight kind of issue.
I gotcha.
You know, but, this isn't gonna be, this is kind of the advantage of taking it 2 to 4, you have space to work with.
So at this point, there's no planning for the installation of any additional traffic control lights between Network and Babcock?
I don't, not sure yet on that one, Tom. I mean, that's still up in the air. I mean,
We
it's
need to
not-
know if the school is going to get a light.
Sure, there's going to be a lot.
Because then you're gonna have to
Question,
synchronize
yeah.
everything, or else you're gonna have a bottleneck and nobody's gonna be able to get through.
Talking about that Laureate Drive intersection, there'll be.
Yes.
And if they don't have a light or something, they'll never get in to drop off
Right.
their children.
If you go up to Medical, across from the backside of CarMax, where they put the pre-K for 4 or whatever that is, that is a zoo at 8 o'clock in the morning.
And when school lets out.
Yeah.
So just also to follow up on that, we, well, one of our team members is a traffic analyst, and that will have a study, traffic studies to looking at the movements of traffic and seeing how both the functionality, mobility on that side as well. So based on that recommendation, and the city's already provide us with some of the intersection improvements that they want to see. But we still have to make sure that it lines up with the traffic analysis.
That study hasn't been done?
It has not been done.
That's right.
It's in the
It's-
process
right.
of being done.
Right.
When-
So
when
we
is- when are they gonna
break
turn around?
ground, we break ground there, and they're under construction, and the traffic impact study hasn't been factored into what's going on. That's what
Does
happens.
that sound smart?
This
What
is-
am I missing here?
The city government, the ones that everybody elected are the ones that dream up this stuff.
Or one project.
Dumb question, I know this sounds way off the wall,
No, there's no.
but I have a tree that comes over my fence. What is the height from a road surface to a tree?
So clearance typically on an overhang should be enough for a tractor trailer, which is, it's kind of like the same level.
I just had my tree guy at 16 feet. 14 to 16 from
Okay.
pavement to canopy.
So my question is, if your tree goes over the fence, they can only cut off part of your tree that's on their side of the fence?
That's correct.
Right.
Okay.
I
Looking
guess
at
that
this
remains to
picture,
be seen.
Huh?
I guess that remains to be
That's
seen.
why I kept saying I would
Yes.
like to see if they made the road flatter so it's smoother. That would give me more altitude on my tree.
no center turn, but as you came into different subdivisions for the left, all of a sudden the little left turn was there for people to go into their subdivisions. So how is that designed?
Makes sense.
I mean, it's,
Can you go a little further on your picture to where she's talking about, like down by Jade Oaks, down the hill?
well, I was traveling on Old Babcock, and I was thinking, okay, this is 4 lanes, this is great, I don't have a problem with it, didn't have a center turn lane, until I came up to this subdivision that I could see that was over on the left, and then here's this
It
little
narrows.
Towards,
divot, or I don't know
A
what
left
you
turn
call
lane,
it.
pocket.
By Jade Oaks.
That's exactly what it was.
So basically you have this, right? You're coming along, there's 4 lanes, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Back up
then
from
you,
here is
then you
one of
want
the
to turn
gates.
left, and then you get to
Back
the
this way.
intersection, and
Looks like
then
they
you
can
have
left side.
this, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah.
I was
it's probably
mistaken,
one of
it was,
the-
it was like that, there was
Yeah.
the sidewalk.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah,
that's kind of what
there.
we're suggesting, is that why we're saying, that's a great way to look at it, is that, is the 5-lane continuous left turn lane throughout needed when you have long stretches where there's no real access? So can we
Right there.
consolidate that and actually do something like that?
That is what I would prefer.
So that's kind of, I think that's a reasonable thing to look at, and that's part of, again, they started with this, and now we're trying to work it.
Yeah, that's the main J
And then
Oaks
we
gate
can-
1.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden you have more space over here.
See, yes, because that's what I was thinking as I was driving the road. Why isn't this an option?
I can estimate,
Because that's
but this was
over
a street, so I
You say that.
at this point.
Okay,
You
so
see,
it's
see there on that,
Left turn pocket, left turn lane, but a pocket is a good.
So let's just say that I keep the center line. Let's just assume that. Then 4 lanes.
You're not gonna get 4 lanes in that space.
there you go, you're gonna have to get a little deeper to get 4 over there.
That's 3 right now.
See, if you back that side up against those bushes,
I would say, yeah, I agree.
if they go that, on that side, on the left side, all the way up against the property line, and then take a lesser amount off the right-hand side, you can still get in that gate.
But 4 lanes are only 44 feet, they're 11-foot
11
lanes.
foot each.
11 feet each, yes. We did hear that, yeah.
But if you
And
have,
that, right there, Prue Road is probably, that's paved, is 60 feet across. So the lines that you've got there, probably,
That's not 60 feet.
yeah, these are 30 foot.
I live right there, that's not 60 feet.
No, we
The
can't.
pavement's
The
not supposed to be
pavement
across.
is 60 feet.
That there now, or?
Yeah, we had it measured, so from where the pavement starts to where the pavement ends, 60 feet.
From here to here,
From
Yep.
here to here?
60?
That's 2 lanes, period.
That's 2 lanes, that's not 60
A
feet.
couple feet of curbing. So if they're 11 feet a lane, that's 22.
11
But I
is
don't
the
think those
least
lanes
span
are
of the lanes.
11 feet. I
That's what
think
they-
those are 13 feet lanes each, and then you've got the side.
It's like
The side potholes,
The potholes.
potholes on
Yeah.
the side.
The tire shredders.
213 is
Tom,
26.
Tom, can you guys go
Be
to,
lucky
can you
this
guys
thirty.
scale this for us?
is that,
Can you guys give us, tell us what the existing, that's what.
But see, if you see where that
How wide is it?
right behind that flagpole, that's where the keypad is. You can see as it is now,
we show them what, 26
That's what
feet?
you're talking
you
about?
can't lose any real estate to get your keypad.
Yeah, it's only
How many
that
feet?
that you can't
Well, yeah, if you're coming this way,
Section
Japan,
26 feet,
and you're my
kind
size,
of roughly what
you
the
have to
chapter.
open up
So
the
this is
door
26.
to reach it.
Right, yeah, you can,
So this is 26.
So that's
I got
26.
a real low
That
car, too.
seems
Yeah.
more.
It's like,
26 feet for 213.
I think the 60 maybe, yeah, that should go a lot further than the existing roadway width.
Yeah, I'll measure it when I get home before I come back at 6. I'm gonna go up to the
You better be awfully
bushes.
nimble.
How much feet do you tell me I gotta have
Well, it's
to
gotta
build all
be-
this? 72?
79 feet.
79.
Right.
Well, I'll measure off 79 feet before I come back at 6. Tell you where that lands in my backyard.
That's not gonna be
yeah,
all the way to
that's
here,
okay.
though. That's gonna be to here,
Right.
right? The actual asphalt, not including the,
Shoulder.
not
Right, that's
including
not
the
including the shoulder,
So
right.
that's
right.
Right, so it's 26 feet of asphalt.
Actually, that's
It's not
26.
included.
So.
So that's what we have
It's
already.
12 and 12
They're
and then
13
one.
foot,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Right,
Okay.
right. The current thought is to take those to 11-foot lanes with a 13-foot turn lane,
So you,
or median.
if you do that, are you going to restrict any type of vehicles on that street?
Like the Domino's truck that comes by every night?
And the big old dump trucks that come by there, ripping and rocking? An 11-foot lane, very tight.
Is that something
And don't
that would
forget your
be
police,
wanted?
your
Is-
fire truck, that is good for at least 2 to 3, 4 trips a day.
Is it going,
In the
are
morning,
these
always
cutting
both
through,
directions.
or are they serving the area? Are those something that,
See, this is a thoroughfare for the fire truck off of behind McDonald's. That's how they get to 10. They use Prue Road, 'cause
Yeah.
you couldn't get a fire truck
What
down
is this?
here.
Well, only emergency vehicles that would be allowed versus the trucks
that's big.
beyond a certain
Right.
tonnage.
So it can be anywhere from, in extreme cases where you're not going very fast, 9 feet, 10 feet, 11 feet, and which is what we're settling on here. As soon as you start to get to 12 and 13-foot lanes, that's higher speed. You're accommodating more trucks, interstates. But for a city street, 11, another way to save space would be a 10-foot road. That feels pretty tight.
Yeah.
But, so here's the thing. Everything, here's the trade-off. Feels tight, but people drive slow because you feel tight.
and that's something we haven't asked yet. We talked briefly about speed earlier, what speed limit will it be? Well, the street should be designed for the speed that we want it to be. So what speed do you want to see in this corridor? What speed do we want it designed for?
Certainly not 55.
I think maximum 40,
Yep.
35 to 40.
That is it.
That'll keep them under 50.
And that'll keep them right
if you
under.
want 40, put the speed limit at 30. You might be,
Well,
we
there's a
come
lot
out
of,
that gate,
there's a lot of.
there's nobody to the Babcock light. You barely turn left out of the gate. And then you got somebody on your butt pushing you along at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Because they will come off of Heathner Road doing 55 and hit that curve and cross over Network and take it 55 all the way down Prue. Yes.
Do they do a lot of enforcement out here?
No.
And we have a police station right here.
And
Oh.
we have a substation.
Yes, sir.
I live on the west side in Prue Road. They got some complaints, and I saw motorcycle cops parked out in front of our neighborhood for several days. They have enforcement.
And also Saturday morning, when I'm walking my dog, oh my God, it's like 70. They're just speeding early in the morning, like from 8 to 10.
And that's
It's
what
very
potholes.
dangerous.
Just think what they could do if they had a smooth street and 4 lanes.
Will there be any traffic quieting
No.
devices built into this project? That you can build things into a parkway that will slow traffic naturally.
Well, let me, and that's a great question. Traffic calming features, and I've been waiting to ask this question, and so how do you guys feel about roundabouts?
I like that.
I like
I like it.
Okay, so that's one of the ideas we've been kicking around to see
Where would
if
it be?
But
we've been trying to find, we've looked at a couple of different locations, but I think that might be a good exercise for all of us to look at the map of where that could fit best. We can give you kind of a rough, the one thing about it, again, it's constrained right away, you're looking at about a circle that's about 150 feet in diameter.
Put it
And
in,
find it.
somebody else's neighborhood then.
But,
Yeah.
we'll avoid your house, we'll put it on the map. But the thing is that is a feature that why we like the idea of putting in a roundabout. One, it has a calming effect. Two, where we have the driveways, very few driveways on one side, if we put in a roundabout, narrow the road down to 4 lanes without that 5th lane, have a pretty solid median and barrier. When you have a roundabout, that gives people the ability to do a U-turn when you've now taken away, the left turn to get into the property. Now they can go around, come in and get in there safely as opposed to trying to turn directly into their parcel. So that's why we think it could be a good idea. And so I think if there's kind of and you never know where you go. I mean, there's some areas you go into and it's like, hell no way, we don't want a roundabout. Here we have at least a mixed bag that's good and some optimism, so you're telling me there's a chance, but anyway.
The next meeting starts at 6.
Yep, so what we'd like to do, let's go for a walk.
I'm gonna
What time?
Yep.
The two of us have to leave. We've got a 30-minute trek to get back to all the folks before this next meeting.
Let's walk outside.
We'll start walking you out.
You